Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Soss. This is their part number BH164. This is a barrel style invisible hinge. If you use your imagination, you can see why they call it a barrel style. Okay, at least it will in that sort of regard. This is called an invisible hinge. Why is that the case? That's the case because when you install it and the door is closed, you don't see the hardware. And frankly, that description is the hallmark of the entire Soss line. They have, of course, hinges that are rectangular, generally with radiused edges or even square edges on some of their fire-rated hinges for sure. And they also have these barrel hinges, and these are available in different sizes. And people will simply use a barrel hinge where you're dealing with a lighter weight door, smaller door, thinner door, a lighter door. And in essence, the installation of this is basically where you drill a hole and you press fit this inside, and then it's held in place by means of that small little set screw that's there. And that will basically drive the hinge. You see these two slits here and here that will drive that out like a wedge to fit the hinge inside of the hole that you've drilled quite securely. Now, some dimensional properties. We're going to look at the template, but just to take a look at it, the overall about 1 inch and 5/16 and a diameter of about 5/8 of an inch. Different sizes we're going to look at also, and we are going to switch over now to the screen view where we can take a closer look at that supporting documentation, its options, its installation, etc. They are, before we switch though, they are sold as each. When you order one, we're going to send you just one. It's very likely that you'll need to order in multiples of 2. However, this client happened to order 10. Okay. Let's switch now to the screen view and take a closer look. Okay, so this is the item that we are here looking at. A generic image showing different sizes of these barrel hinges. Soss invisible barrel hinges are made of solid brass with brass links. They are easily installed and open a full 180 degrees. There are some limitations to that, we'll qualify it. Soss invisible barrel hinges are totally invisible from either side when the door is closed. They are not recommended for vertical or load-bearing applications. If you have something that needs to carry a specific weight, you'll want to use, some of their other traditional hinges, which we'll touch on when we get to the product catalog. So this is the BH, the barrel hinge 164. Solid brass for wood applications. Minimum material thickness is 7/8 of an inch, and they will want you to use a 5/8 of an inch diameter drill bit. Wood screws, which this does not apply here, and by the time you're seeing this video, this line will be removed. There are no fasteners included with these at all because it doesn't require any. So you just drill the proper size and insert the hinge. Well, that's true, but then you tighten down the set screw or the wedge screw. And again, sold as each. When you buy one, we'll ship you one. Here is a basic dimensional relationship of the hinge. And when you're dealing with Soss, regardless of it being the simple barrel style hinge or the unit that is to be mortised, the E dimension is a cardinal rule in the world of Soss, meaning not to be exceeded, the E dimension. We're going to touch on that in one of these two documents. Let's look at instructions. And if they're not included with your hinge, that's okay. They're included here in the extended description. There are different model numbers of these hinges, as you can see here. Okay, so what they're talking about here is the minimum door thickness. You can have a maximum door thickness that suits your requirements, but you can't go below that. Whether or not the door happens to be substantially thicker it's not really germane to determining your hinge exactly, but be mindful. You're going to want to be in the ballpark of the door thickness. So I'm thinking that this client very likely is going to have maybe a door 1 1/8 inches thick. I would probably count on having a door thickness double the diameter that you're going to drill plus 2 of the E dimensions. I would say that would be a reasonable minimum. Pardon me. I would argue that that would be a relative maximum door thickness, but again, it can be any size you need. So what I'm attempting to drive at is, what is your maximum door thickness? You know, that's going to be basically your decision. This Hinge is just telling you what the minimum would be. I would certainly not want to grossly exceed where I can go to the next largest hinge. So if I had a door that was going to be 1.25 inches, you know, I may not opt to use the BH164. I might just simply go with the larger version of the Hinge is what I'm driving at. But your experience will direct you how to go about doing that. And we're going to go over what that E dimension is when we look at the template. Templates are not available for barrel hinges. Okay, so there's probably just a technical drawing. Not recommended for vertical load-bearing applications. No load recommendations available for light applications only. Use your best judgment. Cabinet doors is where I would use these. Having said that, you know, these Soss hinges are going to be notorious for, you know, carrying a substantial amount of weight, even though this is not rated at all. I think you can rely on knowing that it's going to be a capable hinge. The B dimension is important when you're going into whatever you're going into, to make sure you have adequate room. So in our 164, they're giving us this obviously in millimeters, 16.5. So 1 divided by 25.4 times 16.5, that's 0.65 inch basically. So 5/8, 11. Let's see here now, 21 30 seconds maybe. Yeah, basically 21 30 seconds, quite roughly is what it's going to be. Now, an overview. What I'm getting here is, yeah, this may be page 1. Well, this is okay. Here it is. This is the cover. This is page 2. This is page 3. That's the back cover. Is clearly what this is. Now let's take a look at the template, which again is not a template, but it is a technical drawing. And here we go. So here's that infamous E dimension, 2.3 millimeter or 3/32 of an inch. If exceeded, the door may not open, is the bottom line. Okay. There's also a document listed down below called clearance details, which we'll show you right now. Here's what that document looks like. And it gives an understanding, a graphical understanding of what you may need to do depending on where you stand with your E dimension in terms of how a door and or frame might need to be modified to accommodate a requirement. So what I'm driving at is, you can see if you need to go to 90 degree, 180 degree opening, standard back set with material applied to door and frame. Okay. So this sort of hinge detail shows you that you need to chamfer that material. A 45 degree bevel on applied material with a thickness less than half the max door clearance will provide a 180 degree opening. So when you look at the template that we were looking at earlier, your clearance detail of 3 millimeter, they're saying you can encroach into that space, but how you encroach into that space is dependent on what degree of opening you need to work with and how thick that can be. What I mean is encroach into that clearance space here. Okay. Now, as we take a closer look at all of this, a great example of what happens when you encroach into that space greater than what you're permitted to, like as in shown here, 90 degree opening. where that material is applied to the door only, and basically this represents double the thickness of what's happening here, you're only going to go to 90 degree in that case. And that might be just certainly fine for you. May not be any trouble whatsoever, but if you had that applied here, you're not going to get open, and it's going to look very much just like what's happening here. Okay, so the document's handy in the sense of better understanding how we go about grasping what happens to the clearances when the door goes from 0 to 90 to 180 degree. And this technical drawing here helps us understand what those values are. So this document refers specifically to the 164 barrel hinge, giving us all of those dimensions. So your installation is quite simple and straightforward. It's basically locating a hole at the proper height, at the proper back set, and that back set is the dimension from the, let's say, the edge of the casework to the center of the hole. The appropriate diameter, which they're saying is 16 millimeter, to the proper depth at 16.5 millimeter. It's that simple. Mark those holes in both locations. Be sure to account for any margin at the top of the door. When you're measuring on the jamb, be sure to account when you're transferring that dimension to the door to allow for any gap that's between the top of the door and the underside of the cabinet structure or the header or whatever you're installing it to. So simple and straightforward. This does not require any routing, any two-step routing. This is just literally a round hole. Although you need some specially sized bits, but if you're going to do this kind of work, that goes hand in hand with prepping for Soss, and we'll touch on a little bit more of that commentary in a moment. But great document showing what this needs to look like. Okay. Really good stuff. Now, there is a link below this video to the manufacturer's page. This page is going to give us everything Soss related, and we're not going to dive into everything Soss related, but I want to point out, if you are working with Soss, the nomograph is an important document because it will tell you the size hinge and quantity of hinge you should use. When I say size, I mean the hinge number, and the quantity you would use based on the door width and the door weight. The barrel hinges aren't listed here because they're not load rated. But when you get into the traditional Soss hinges, your 208s, your 216s, your 218s, etc., this is what's going to guide you in terms of what size to order and how many. Also on that manufacturer's page is a link to the website, all of the other Soss products that we sell by means of this horizontal navigation, and then the product catalog here. And that document is going to be basically a 50-page tour through all things Soss. As I had said earlier about specialty, when you're doing specialty work or in specialty hinges like Soss, sometimes specialty tools are necessary. And through their catalog, you'll not only be able to familiarize yourself with all things Soss related, but also you'll be able to review, as we get through the Soss hinges here, those specialty tools necessary potentially for installing Soss products. There's not anything for barrel hinges, it's just drilling a hole, but there are router guide templates and an entire template system that you can purchase, along with the right diameter bit and the proper size guide for your router when you're prepping for this material. So there's no need to stress or strain about getting it mortised correctly. You can just buy the templates or you can make your own. They're very straightforward pieces of material that will allow you to very successfully install the Soss product line. So I won't dive into the catalog, except let's just take a look at what they have in terms of barrel hinges. Yeah, it's the same information that we have here. Okay, we'll make sure that this cut sheet is added to all of those products. Okay, so let's wrap up this video on camera and do our final review of this hinge. Now, in conclusion, I'm quite partial when it comes to Soss. Not only is it the elegance of the product, but it's also the solutions that you can bring to your client base on using Soss hinges. They want something robust. They want something that's going to, very predictably and reliably hang the door. They want something concealed. Soss hits all of those targets perfectly well. It's very well priced, especially when you consider other invisible hinges on the market. The primary component of Soss is that they are fixed pieces of hinges, and they are non-adjustable. There are many invisible hinges on the market today that feature three-way, three-dimension adjustability. Soss has stated that they will never manufacture such a hinge, and I've spoken to people who love those adjustable hinges and don't order Soss as a result. I've spoken to people who have no problem using a hinge that's not adjustable. I'm very much firmly in that camp, and it's because before the world of adjustable, three-way adjustable invisible hinges existed, it was Soss. So you learned how to mortise those, and as a result of learning how to understand the hinge, understanding that E dimension, do not exceed, understanding that it's a simple two-step process to mortise or machine or route for those, all of the hesitation is eliminated. And if you install, I should say, if you mortise for the Soss hinge in the correct location, you don't have a need to adjust it vertically, nor laterally, nor for depth. If it's mortised correctly, the hinge is going to do its job. You could certainly understand how the door is not going to really change its shape, although the frame may no longer be true plumb level and square. It may be a parallelogram. Things might happen affecting the wall, affecting the frame, affecting how the door operates. From that angle, an adjustable hinge is nice, but I'm very suspect over the long-term health of an adjustable hinge when it's just counting on screws that are loosened or tightened. Everything comes loose with time. Everything does. So I'm highly suspect of what the long-term success of an adjustable invisible hinge is. I have admittedly spoken to one client of mine who says after a decade there's been no reported problem of that at all. So that's great to hear. But since there's no problem with Soss, and they are substantially less expensive, and at least equally as capable in terms of weight rating, don't fix what's not broken. Speaking of weight rating, when you get into their 216, 218, 220 hinges, these hinges can handle epic amounts of weight. We have hung doors that were hundreds of pounds on Soss hinges with zero problem at all. Nice quality product, good quality people over at Soss. Simple, no nonsense, straightforward interaction with Soss at all times. This client has purchased 10 of the BH164s and 10 of the BH144s. So they've got some doors they can hang here. If you have any questions on the Soss BH164 barrel hinge or any other Soss product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. If you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please click subscribe as well, and even share the video with someone that you know. And if you have any questions for a future video, please send them our way and we will make every attempt to oblige. And thank you very much.